Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the very first ARA Women in Rail conversations. We have more than 500 people registered for today's event, which is wonderful and one of the biggest ever Women in Rail events that we've held as part of the ARA program. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting as yet, my name is Caroline Wilkie. I'm the new CEO of the ARA. I joined in February while Danny ascended to the role of chair. And it's been an interesting start to the role, 4 weeks in, and then we went into lockdown for a period of time. I previously was working as CEO of the Airports Association, so familiar with large infrastructure, but obviously a lot to learn in the rail industry. But so far, it's very dynamic and exciting, and I'm thrilled to be here and as part of your sector. Before we do begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to say a quick note of support to everyone who's watching today from Melbourne and Victoria. I just wanted to say, all of your colleagues are thinking of you. We understand that this is challenging times for you, but we just wanted to say that we greatly appreciate the sacrifice that you're making for our wider community, and we hope to see you all very, very soon. Today's Women in Rail event builds on the success of our Women in Rail network and aims to create more of a conversation about diversity, championing women in the sector, and fostering a culture that drives real change. If you've not already done so, I strongly encourage you to take part in the ARA LinkedIn group for Women in Rail Network. It's a fantastic opportunity for you to network with other women in the sector, and as more of us get involved in that platform, the more conversation can take place. This is the first of the Women in Rail conversations that we will be holding this year. I do encourage you to contact the ARA to tell us about what you would like to hear about, whether it be a conversation like what we're holding today, or maybe something a bit more in professional development. Either way, here at the ARA, we're here to make sure that you can access the content that you need to develop your career in the rail sector. I'd like to take this opportunity to talk briefly about one of our other programs that we host, and that's the ARA Women in Rail Mentoring Program. This program was supposed to have only 40 pairs this year, but we were so inundated with responses from wonderful individuals across the sector that we actually grew the program to 60 mentoring pairs this year. One of our speakers today, Rochelle, is from Beeline, and Beeline is principal sponsor of that program. So thank you to Rochelle and her team. Other sponsors of the mentoring program include BHP, CPB Contractors, Inland Rail, and Rio Tinto. And we just want to take this opportunity to thank them for all of the support that they provide to the ARA mentoring program. If you haven't already nominated to take part of that program, I can tell you that there will be another intake later this financial year. So this is my first time actually running one of these webinars. So I will quickly run through some of the technical components so that everyone knows how to get the most from your experience today. So in terms of the control panel that you will see on the right-hand side of your browser, we have the screenshot displayed here. You do have the opportunity to submit questions for today's panelists by typing your questions into the questions pane, and you can do so anytime during the conversation. I'll attempt to include those questions a bit later on in the program. If you'd like to direct your questions to a specific speaker, please include those details in the question. And so now I would love to introduce our panelists for today. Firstly, welcome to Rachelle Reynolds, Director of Business and Transformation at Beeline. Rachelle is an executive specialising in the energy, transport and government sectors, and Rachelle joins Beeline as Company Secretary 4 years ago. She now runs the Beeline Business and Transformation area in operations, and she's also Deputy Chair of the ARA Women in Rail Advisory Committee and co-chair of the Beeline Gender Diversity Committee. Rachelle is passionate about mentoring and regularly speaks on the topic of developing culture and mentorship. And welcome to our second speaker, Jody. Welcome. Jody is a freight train driver who works in the mining sector. Jody has more than 30 years of corporate experience within the heavy equipment, earth moving and rail sectors. And 7 years ago, she embarked on a new career direction to start her career as a coal train driver in the resources sector. Jody is an active advocate for inclusion and diversity, so much so that she's written a book on it, penning High Heels to High Vis, Kick-Ass Women, to provide a guide on building your career in a non-traditional role. She says the benefits of a career in rail extend far beyond the ability to secure your future, providing personal fulfillment and accomplishment along the way. And we look forward to talking to Jody about her experience. So welcome to Rochelle and Jody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carolyn.
So we're going to treat this as a fireside chat and ignore that we have about 500 people watching us at the moment. So obviously you've both built very successful careers in the rail sector. I'd love to hear about your experience and how you got into rail in the first place and what career trajectory led you to where you are now in the rail sector. So I'll start with you first, Jody.
Oh, excellent. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you for having me here today. It's exciting and great to be talking about all things women and opportunities within the rail industry. I'm also in awe of the awesome women surrounding me here today. So thank you. You're all amazing. And we'll get back on track and start to expand the mission to connect and cultivate women in the rail industry. For me, it wasn't an easy ride. I had rather a big oh shit moment in my life and run off the rails, so to speak, just over 10 years ago, which changed the trajectory of my life and thus career drastically. Yes, of course, bad things happen to all of us. We all face all sorts of adversity in the course of our lifetime. And it's important to consider that everything that has happened to you had purpose. And this, I must say, turned out for the better for me. I found myself unemployed for a period of around 2.5 years and having to rewire myself, my self-confidence, relaunch my career, regain credibility and begin contributing back into the family and the household. So after working predominantly within the corporate sector in HR, workplace health and safety admin, I decided to upskill and I furthered my knowledge and experience in project management and put that to use in our family-owned civil contracting business, which contracts to the rail industry. So after a number of years working there, I wanted to step away from the family because I wanted to differentiate family and work. And so I started applying for anything outside of office work on the internet. And I was looking for something totally left of field. And I was fortunate enough to come across an advert for a trainee train driver. And I wrestled with my self-confidence and the lack thereof of skills in applying for the position. And I sat in front of the computer after completing the online application. It took me about half an hour before I got the guts to hit the submit button. And the rest, they say, is history now because I've been driving coal trains for the last 7 years and I can honestly and genuinely say I love my job with a passion.
That's fantastic. Rochelle, what about you? How did you get to be at V-Line?
Carolyn, I have a legal and governance background, and I've worked in the energy sector for about 16 years. And I've worked from everything from energy retailing, so gas and electricity, through to power generation, and had been the general counsel and company secretary of an energy company in Sydney for about 9 years. Where I was getting to the point where I thought I needed to broaden my skill set and work outside the power industry. So the power industry has a lot of similarities to the rail industry, so heavy engineering focus, huge safety focus, risk management. And so for me, when I was looking for an industry that was similar but also would expand my skill set, rail seemed like a natural choice for me. For me also, it's a public service. So power generation is providing a service to the community in terms of having the electricity there to turn your lights on. And rail also offered a similar public service that really fits with my values. So for me, it's been a great opportunity. Like Jody, I love my job. I love my industry. And it's really offered me a huge change in career and opportunity.
Wonderful. Did you ever think you'd end up in rail?
Not at the start of my career, no. And I don't think I ever thought I'd end up in power generation either. It's something that evolved. I started out as a lawyer working within a law firm, and after a few years thought it was time for a new challenge, and went and worked in-house, originally at the Farmers Federation in WA, and then came across to Melbourne and started in the power industry. And then, as I said, when I was ready for a change in a slightly different industry, I thought rail would be the good choice for me. But it wasn't something that I'd ever set out to aspire to. But for me, it's been a fantastic opportunity.
Wonderful. Jody, I'll start with you. Obviously, you've built a very successful career in the 7 years that you've been doing what you're doing. In terms of that time frame, though, what have been the special moments? What have been the big challenges and the things that have pushed you past your limits that have made you realise that this sort of a role has given you a new perspective?
I think the biggest challenges I learned earlier on, and I really would like women to attune to this, is speaking up and learning to see criticism as positive feedback and utilise it. Own your power. Don't be afraid to use your voice. Communicate calmly and logically and without antagonising, because we have a brain and we have a good one. Our thoughts, opinions and our ideas are important, and you need to own the power of your intelligence and knowledge. I think one of our most effective tools is self-confidence. When we believe in our value and contribution, we don't have to pound our chests like the men do. We simply have to present our knowledge, position and plan. There is one thing that you can count on as a female working in a lot of these male-dominated industries, and that is that you're often underestimated. And I think perceive being underestimated as an opportunity, not an insult. Much like criticism, don't take it personally. Treat it as positive feedback and learn from it. Some people believe it puts us at a disadvantage, but it doesn't. What may seem like a disadvantage is really an edge you should use to your advantage. You have the ability to shock people by simply being prepared and knowledgeable, and that's what I try to do. So I say step in, step up and step out onto the plate and into the wall where your gender, along with your vast ability, allows you to grow.
Rochelle, what about you? Any special moments that stick out?
Yeah, so I've had a couple through my career that I'd like to share. And for me, all of them have involved taking on something that was much bigger than I'd ever taken on before. And I should share with the audience that I doubt my abilities all the time. And I think it's important to be vulnerable and share those sorts of things, because often it can look quite shiny and perfect from the outside, and we don't realise that we all have those vulnerabilities and doubts about ourselves. For me, when I was working in Sydney as General Counsel, I was involved over a number of years in the sale of the electricity generation assets in New South Wales. And I led the governance and legal aspects for sales that were $1 billion. They were huge projects. They went over a number of years. I had a young son at that stage, so my son was 3, and I worked part-time as well. And for me, what it demonstrated to me was my ability to achieve, and that those doubts, I needed to push through those. I needed to make sure that if there was any negative thought that I moved that away, and I was very mindful of it. And for me, that was a really defining part of my career. I came out of that thinking, wow, if I can work part-time, I can have a young son, and I can achieve those sorts of amazing results in sales processes, I am capable of a lot more. So for me, that was a defining moment. A more recent defining moment has been during COVID-19. For the last 12 months, I've been acting General Manager Customer Operations at Beeline, managing 650 frontline staff during a pandemic. And this is something that none of us had ever been through before. And I know all participants on this call, but it's not something we've been through before. There was no rule book, and it's something that really challenged me as a leader. And I really had to come back to my core values and skills in terms of communicating to all of my team members, also dealing with their anxiety and showing empathy through that time as well, trying to put myself in their shoes to understand their concerns and fears that they had. And we are still learning as we go through COVID-19, but for me it was a real defining moment in terms of leading a team through a crisis.
I know from a personal perspective, 2 years prior to becoming new to the ARA, I had a major project I was working on, and was absolutely the most challenging of my career. But actually what got me through was I read a lot of Brene Brown. So if anyone's interested, I would encourage you to do that. There's a particular line that she has where she said, you need to put your big girl pants on. I'll tell you what, when I'm under stress and pressure, you do think of that and you go, you know what, I can do this and I just need to do it. And so yeah, if anyone wants any good podcasts, that's certainly a good place to start. Jody, a question for you. You've been advocating for more women to join non-traditional roles, changing their high heels to high vis. Why do you think women should consider these sorts of operational roles?
I think they should consider them more, as there's lots of great benefits, and it's not just about securing a well-paying future, but it's also about personal fulfillment and accomplishment. Self-belief. To any woman who thinks any of these non-traditional roles or careers are only a man's job, think again. Women tend to underestimate their own skills and abilities, doubting their capabilities and not knowing where to start. And we need to support with the non-traditional role concept. No woman should ever shy away from an opportunity due to lack of self-belief, skill, or fear of the unknown. Job advancement opportunities, better wages, and benefits are extremely important factors leading to women pursuing non-traditional employment. But, however, job satisfaction is another important factor as well, or it creates higher self-esteem, high morale among not only yourself, but amongst your fellow employees. And it leads to higher satisfaction rates for and profitability for the company. Women's interests and abilities are very diverse. And I find now many women are very unhappy with their employment in traditional roles, and they may be unaware of the opportunities available to them. And we need to make these roles more open and attracting to the women. And if she finds something that she likes and she has interest in, she's more than likely to stick with that job. And especially if she has great enjoyment in it. It's about having self-belief and having the right attitude and perspective. And it is about looking outside your comfort zone and having the guts to show up as the brightest and happiest and kick-ass version of yourself, whatever that looks like to you. And it doesn't matter your age. If your work quality is strong and you're keen, adopt the position of being a lifelong learner. Your best years are yet to come. And I think people who continually seek to grow and develop themselves bring value to a workplace that supersedes any age or position. And yeah, I think it's about getting mighty clear what makes you happy and what makes you feel the most alive, and then creating it instead of or pretending that you can't have it or don't deserve it. And women have a lot to offer the rail industry as a whole. And if they can be recruited, trained, and accommodated adequately, by all means, we need to make women more aware of the types of roles that exist in the rail industry and that it isn't a career path. So I say kick off those heels and step out of your comfort zone and step up to the plate and have a go. And it'd be silly not to grasp these opportunities.
Rachelle, you have moved from more of a corporate role to more of an operational role. And obviously, V-Line being the organisation that it is, there are always opportunities to move around. Sort of any advice you have about opportunities or how someone who might be watching today might be saying, I'm in more of a corporate role, but I do have an inkling of liking more operational roles. What advice would you give that person?
Yeah, and I'm happy to share my journey as well. So I've been with V-Line just about 4.5 years. And about 2 years ago, I thought it was time to broaden my skill set. So I'd had a successful legal and governance career, but felt as if it was time for me to take on some new challenges. Like Jody, I love learning. So for me, always love a new challenge. And I spoke to my boss at the time and said, look, I think it's time for me to broaden my skill set. And I think operations would be a really good place for me. I would learn a lot in that space. And I've fantastic boss who was very supportive and said, well, let's have to think about what that might look like. And over time, we had a few conversations about what a new role might look like. I had a fantastic sponsor within operations who offered me a secondment initially. which gave me an opportunity to test my skill set in operations and learn some more. Since joining operations, I also was seconded as General Manager Customer Operations for a year. That was a fantastic, amazing opportunity. I learned a lot. It gave me great confidence in leading large teams. And now I'm in Director of Business and Transformation within operations. My key points to anyone who wants to move into a different area within their business is to make sure that they speak up to their boss about what their career aspirations are. Don't assume that your boss knows where you want to go and what you're looking for next. Be patient. Don't think that your boss is going to be able to turn around in the next 2 weeks and say, here's your new job. Be patient and think this is something that will develop over time. And really back yourself. So make sure you back yourself when you take that change, lean into the experience, and say yes to all the opportunities. It's too easy to say no and doubt your abilities, but go in with an open mind. But really make sure you do speak up about what you're looking for.
I'd certainly echo that. I mean, I know from my experience with the staff that I've had at different times, and I'm very much a what do you want to be when you grow up type of manager, and I'll say I'm here to support you. I'm here to be happy for you to grow. But I'm quite shocked at how many people don't really think about what they want for the future, and that's fine. I think staying where you want to be can be totally fine, but I think there are a lot of people who do want that opportunity and they just really need to articulate it, and they'd probably be shocked at how willing people are to help them along, really.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes it can be quite nerve-wracking. I know myself, when I spoke to my boss at the time and said, look, I'm looking for a new opportunity, you always have that fear that you think, oh, maybe they'll think, oh, I'm not interested, or there's something wrong. And that's not the message at all. It's more about saying, I love what I'm doing, but I'm now ready for the next challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Creating that new vision, that's the thing. It's once you get to a goal, you need to have the next goal and step out and act and work towards it.
One of the best bits of advice I got very early in the career was do a 5-year plan. So, think about where you want to be and how you're going to get there. And it was great advice, actually. Just talking more about mentoring, because I know you're both very big advocates for mentoring. Why mentoring? What do you think it brings? Jody, do you want to start us off?
Yes, I do. This comes from the heart. I recently just wrote an article on this, and I'm a big believer in it. I think it's the best way to grow and learn from others' experiences, and success isn't just about what you accomplish in your life, it's about what you inspire others to do. And we can learn a lot from mentors. Mentoring programs are a versatile solution that can help any woman with her career development, and it's the ideal strategy to enable skill development and build your network, which is important, and also employee engagement. While mentoring is good for men and women, it's particularly a benefit for women because it helps to build their confidence and enable them to see their careers more objectively. Too often women lack the confidence to ask for a mentor or worry that it might make them look weak. When given the opportunity to participate in a mentoring program, I say grab that opportunity with both hands. Women are better able to move forward in their careers. Mentoring provides a safe space for women to openly discuss their ambitions. And when we mentor, we identify hidden talent. Teaching allows women who come from less fortunate circumstances the opportunity to apply hard work, and things take time to teach, but when we give qualities like gusto and grit, it gives a chance to win out over pedigree and polish. And lastly, we create a work culture with varying perspectives and knowledge, which is crucial to creating a well-rounded work, and nurture the underdog who shows potential. And it can also change the perception many women develop when their leaders don't recognise their talent. As Rachelle was saying before, it helps many women overcome their self-limiting beliefs and mindsets, which can keep them in aspiring, reaching senior and leadership roles. And it helps build trust in yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you do it, which in turn provides you with the confidence to move out of your comfort zone and strive to achieve your true potential. And cultivating early mentoring habits builds a woman's belief in her capability. So with that, it creates a flow-on effect and it creates the wave. So women in leadership positions need to make a point of mentoring other women, because more often than not, nobody else is going to, and we know that. So let's be mindful of supporting one another and make sure we're lifting up those around us, especially if you're a female in a leadership role. And it's encouraging to see more women step up to those mentoring roles, especially from women from different backgrounds, and all coming together. So when we all come together, we create change that's positive for our communities and our children, and it's really inspiring. So I'm a big believer in mentoring.
Absolutely. Rochelle, your experience?
Yeah, so I have had the benefit of having a mentor myself. And as I was developing in my career, having mentors wasn't a common thing. And certainly there was no programs where you could find a mentor. But I was lucky enough to have someone who was a senior person in my organisation who took on a mentoring role, and when they left the organisation, continued in that role. And for me, I've been able to have quite vulnerable conversations with that person. Particularly for me, when I changed from the company secretary role into operations, I had a lot of doubts and thought, am I doing the right thing here? Is this the right move for me? And being able to have those vulnerable conversations with someone who's outside your organisation is really helpful in terms of your career development. I'm lucky enough to actually mentor 5 people myself. And being a mentor is something, again, that happened by chance for me. So a colleague of mine approached me and asked whether I would help their sister, who was having some difficulties, worked in another industry, a male-dominated industry, and was having some challenges, and would I mentor her and meet with her? And I said, oh, happy to meet, and we'll see how we go. And it developed into an amazing relationship where I learnt just as much from her as she learnt from me. That then has resulted in other opportunities for me to be a mentor, where through Beeline I've had executives come to me and ask me if I would be open to mentoring some individuals. I also mentor an individual through a Victorian mentoring program, and also through the ARA program as well. And for Beeline, it's something that we, over the last couple of years, has really grown as an opportunity for women within Beeline. We're proud to sponsor the ARA program, and last year and this year we've, I think, had about 19 people as mentored and mentees, which is fantastic. In the Victorian Government program, we've had 79 people being mentors and mentees, and for us it's a fantastic opportunity. So as women develop through their career, having someone who's walked through a similar path and they can have those vulnerable conversations, which I've had with my mentor, is just an amazing opportunity. And it's something I'm really passionate about and really promote in terms of an opportunity. And I think the fact that there are these programs that women can sign up to is fantastic. For me, early in my career, there weren't these programs, which made it so much easier for you to be able to be matched up with a mentor. So it's fantastic.
I certainly think, from my experience, that the networking side of it is quite important. I know I had a bit of a posse. We were all together when I left the Airports Association, and just having that person to call on can make all the difference. So I guess I just say again to start looking at the opportunities to network via the ARA mentoring program. We also have a number of young rail professional groups. If you're younger watching today, including coming up, we have our rail trivia. So if you want to meet 6 new people on a rail trivia team, that would be a good opportunity to take part. One of the things that's come up, I'll move to questions in a minute, but one of the things that's come up a lot with me having started the role is I've been having a one-on-one conversations with a lot of the senior execs from our member organisations. I think that last count I've done about 90 meetings, and what's come across in many of those meetings is that we have passionate advocates for diversity in the sector, from senior leaders who are predominantly male, who work in small to medium organisations in the rail sector, who might, if they're lucky, have an HR manager, but that's about the sum total of their bandwidth, just keeping the door open. And the CEO or senior exec says to me, look, we're really interested. We want more diversity. We want more women in the team, but we don't even know where to start. So, Rochelle, what advice would you give to anyone on the call who's wanting to increase the diversity or deal with diversity issues in the organisation?
Yeah, so I think diversity needs to be I use the word tackle, and that's not quite the right word, but approached in a couple of different aspects. So in terms of recruitment, for me, some key tips is about having shortlists that are gender diverse. So that way then, if you have a shortlist that is diverse, you also have a panel that's conducting the interview that's diverse as well. That will then promote diversity in terms of recruitment. Really think about your adverts when you advertise for a role. There can be terminology that is male dominant, and so you need to be very careful about making sure that your adverts are attracting a diverse pool of candidates. And then once you have females within the organisation, you need to be very mindful about talent identification, making sure we've identified female talent in an organisation, and then really look at development opportunities for that female talent as well. And there are lots of different ways to develop females within a business, and it can be external development, but there's lots of internal development as well. This year at Beeline, we've held a women's forum. It was the first year that we trialled it. It was an in-house program that we developed ourselves, where we brought a group of women who are developing in their career together, and the day offered them an opportunity to do networking with each other. It also provided them with some tips and skills as they navigate through their career. And for us, that's a program that we can now repeat with other groups, but it was a fantastic opportunity to really offer development to women within the organisation.
Mm. We were talking earlier, the three of us are mums. I have a 4-year-old, yours are a bit older. I know I personally struggle with intense mum guilt, and we make it through, but thank goodness, he's at school now for me, so that's a relief. But one of the questions, and it's interesting, even as I'm seeing some of these questions come up, a lot of people are asking about work-life balance and being a mum and chasing a career in the rail sector. I mean, any advice? Both of you have got older kids, but anything you wanted to share? Rochelle, that was you, sorry.
Yeah, fantastic. I think for me, I think there is no perfect balance. So I think when we try to have the perfect balance, whatever we think that may be, we're setting ourselves up for failure. And it will always be a juggle, and there'll be some days where you don't feel like you're doing anything properly, or you're devoting yourself to anything well. And don't beat yourself up. Be gentle during that time. I had a son, my son's older, he's 13, but he didn't sleep very well for the first couple of years. And I still remember that terrible fatigue where you've gotten up many times during the night. But for me, in terms of really being gentle with yourself, knowing that it won't be perfect, I'll share a story. When I was doing the sale transactions in New South Wales, I worked part-time and I worked from home one day a week, and my son must have been about 3 at the time, and I was on a conference call, of course, with all men. There must have been 14 men on the call. And my son walked past me, and I was on speakerphone, and he said in a very loud voice, "I'm going to do a poo." And there was just silence. There was all these men, just silent. Of course, it doesn't happen in their life. And I just sort of said, "Oh, look, my son's just walked past." And I didn't sort of apologise. I just mentioned it. But what I then knew was that he wasn't yet able to wipe his bottom, and that I would have to go and wipe his bottom at some stage, because otherwise he would start yelling. And so I had to put the phone on mute and run and deal with that. But I think for me, that made me realise that even though I think I've got things under control, there'll always be something that comes up, and to be gentle and kind with myself. And nowadays, I think those sort of things would be far more common than this was 10 years ago. And nowadays, it just wouldn't happen. But really be gentle with yourself and realise that there is no perfect balance.
No, that's right. It's and we all have those failing moments. I've forgotten to pick my boys up from school, and sitting still at work and thinking, it's 4:30, and then where are the kids? So yeah, you do. It's as Rochelle said, for me, it's a balancing. Not so much balancing, it's boundary management. You need to set those boundaries and have your work and assign those times as best you can. but always assign your family life as a priority and spend that time with your family. For women working in these non-traditional roles and like to successfully combine working with children, it does require a strong determination in making it want to work. I believe you really need to have a good supportive network behind you, as in your family and your friends, and use those professional outlets and organisations. And don't be afraid to ask for help if you require a nanny or a house cleaner. Get that assistance if that's what gives you your balance or your boundary management. Seek that help out, and don't put any additional stress onto yourself. But yeah, I think boundary management is a big key to what we say work-life balance.
I certainly think in the time of COVID, we've all got used to the odd interesting visitation from people during VPCs. I know we had some celebrity guests at the ARA calls over the weeks. So yeah, I think it's the new normal. Now, I'm so pleased to say that we have been inundated with questions. I'm going to move to the ones on the system. We've had a question for Jody. Having experienced both supporting roles in HR and safety, then the operational reality, how has your perspective changed, and what do you think each area can learn from the other?
Oh, perspective, very much so, in regards from sitting in an office position to being out in the field is vastly different, and you learn so much more. And I think people should experience a field trip, so to speak. Get out of the office and go out on site and experience that operational aspect, because you learn so much more on how the whole organisation works and how everyone, all the teams or the departments have to work together. And you can see the puzzle pieces come together and work. So I think it's been a great leap into opening up the perspective into how everyone needs to work together to enable the organisation to come together and achieve their goals. It's definitely worth seeking out and following through with.
Just as a follow-up question, someone's asked, how do they get a copy of your book?
Oh, you can get that via Amazon, online at Amazon, or through my website at www.kickasswomen.com.au. Thank you.
So, Rochelle, what advice would you give younger female generation when joining a male-dominated workplace?
For me, I think that the best advice is to speak up. I think often women come into an organisation and can be a bit timid or be a bit intimidated. So make sure you speak up, particularly to your boss, about what you want in terms of career and being open to opportunities. To seek out sponsors within your business, or they might be called champions, but people that will really support you in what you want to achieve. And it will take you a while to find those sponsors and champions, but make sure you have lots of conversations and really back yourself, back your skill set. It's your inner voice will be your worst enemy. And by making sure that you acknowledge it and push it away, you will then succeed in terms of a career in rail.
The other one here, so question for both of you. I'll start with you, Jody. What's your best piece of advice to other women looking to make similar career changes to what you've been through?
Do it. Definitely find something that, if you have an interest in, how can I best describe this? Associate a job with an interest that you have that you really enjoy doing, and see if you can get a match there somewhere. So if you're creative in drawing, seek engineering or schematic drawing or something like that. I don't know. It's trying to find something that you're interested in and putting it into a work role. Like I used to race go-kart. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I love the V8s. So driving a train, even though we're restricted to 80 k's an hour, it's still a bit of an adrenaline rush. So that was something I knew I'd enjoy. But I think find an interest that that you like and try and associate it with a job role.
Jody, I think I want to come up and have you drive me around. Rochelle, what about you? What advice would you give?
So similar to Jody, that leap into the opportunity and really think about what opportunities you might be looking for. Put your hand up for them. Lean into those opportunities. Seek out the sponsors within your business. Also use your mentors. Make sure if you don't have a mentor, that you use the opportunities you've got to get a mentor, so that you can then have those vulnerable conversations with them and test some ideas of where you might want to take your career.
So I've got a great question here about self-confidence. The question is, what techniques have both of you learned that has helped you to remove the barriers to your self-confidence? Jody?
Self-beliefs and attitude. I think attitude is the biggest builder to self confidence. You need to believe in yourself to start with, and don't listen to the naysayers. It's all about you, and you need to build that self confidence and have belief in yourself and your abilities. Like as I said earlier on, you have a brain and you have a good one, and you need to own your power. So own your intelligence, own your ability, and go forth and grow and seek to grow, seek that additional learning. Professional development, self-development is a key to self-confidence. So I would say just believe in yourself all the time.
Rochelle, what about you?
I agree with Jody. So very much about self-belief. Also, really thinking about where, for me, to help me with my confidence, I thought about what are the skill sets that I need to be as a leader. So an example is public speaking. It's something that it's never been a natural comfort zone for me in terms of public speaking. I'm sure there's lots of people like that. It was something that every time there was an opportunity to speak publicly, I would put my hand up. And the more I do it, the better I get. And I've sought out assistance within the organisation to help me with that journey as well. But really think about what are the skills you need in terms of the next step you want to take, and make sure that you seek out some help to help you develop and grow confidence in that area as well. But having self-belief is really important. Back yourself. You really need to back yourself.
I think a key part of that too is understanding or just having a reflection on what's the worst that can happen. And I sort of learned that early on. Like, I can try something. What's the worst that can happen? I get it wrong.
It's the same as
when I started the AAA, it was just me, and you're just starting off. And you know what? And I think that's that. What's the worst that can happen, and B, when something bad does happen and you have made a mistake, how do you respond to that and learn from that and go, you know what? I've learned some really valuable lessons. I won't make that mistake again. What's next? And just being able to push through, I think, is quite key. Some of these questions that we've got here are not necessarily questions but statements. One of them was, can we start the Women in Rail program for New Zealand? It is New Zealand. We are the Australasian Rail Association, proudly based as well, supporting our New Zealand colleagues, which I know there are quite a few on this call. And if you are from New Zealand, we have already had a lot of wonderful people from New Zealand taking part in both of our mentoring programs. So I do encourage you to take part. Who have been your career role models? Rochelle, let's start with you.
So I've had career role models who are male and female, I should say. So for me, I've worked with a number of fantastic board chairs who, with me, both in the power sector and also at Beeline, who've been extremely generous with their time in terms of supporting me through my career, and I've learned a huge amount from them. And for me, I think if we can see leaders, both male and female, in those sort of high-profile jobs supporting people within the organisation, that's a fantastic thing.
Jody?
Oh, yes, I've had two great, with Rochelle, a great female and a great male executive that I both worked for that were both very supportive of seeing me grow and work my hardest. They taught me a very good work ethic, which I'm very, very grateful for and appreciate them for that. And just, I think, overall, never underestimate your ability. Always back yourself, as Rochelle said. But that's what they used to always do. Encourage me to learn more and to get more out of the job that I was doing. So I'd say that they were both my role models there, and what I aspired to have a work ethic and rapport with their workforce as well.
Rochelle, I've had a question here for you. Someone's interested to know about your experience when you made the transition from part-time to full-time work. How did you manage that transition and manage the balance of family and work life?
So again, I come back to, I don't think I ever get the balance quite right, and it's always a bit of a juggle each way. So I worked part-time until my son started school, so I was lucky enough to have that flexibility. And once he started school, I took on a new job and took on a full-time role with a new job. It did take a little bit to get used to it, but I think because my son had started school, it was a natural transition for me to then return to full-time work. I think it's really important to keep the balance there in your life in terms of work and home. And by saying that, I mean also exercise and having space for yourself. I know myself, when I go through really stressful periods, my best way to manage that is to increase the exercise, whether that's walking or whatever it is that works for you. But that really helped me during that period. And as Jody said, get healthy. So I was lucky enough to be able to have a cleaner to come in and help me. And that really helped in terms of getting things done. And also I had a nanny who would pick my son up from school after school a couple of days a week, bring him home, get him some snacks, help with homework and get him dinner. So never be afraid about, if you can afford it, never be afraid to get that extra help in, just to make sure that then gives you a bit more time and makes you a bit less, takes the pressure off you, I think, in terms of trying to be effective at work, but also then give your best when you get home as well.
So reinforcing how many men in the industry we have joining us today, there are a lot of questions from men, and this is so far my favourite. As a white male senior leader in a rail business, what is something that I can do to make our workplace feel more safe and welcoming for female workers, particularly something that may currently be in my blind spot? What a fantastic question. Jody, any suggestions?
All right. Yes. I believe that men can be more effective, especially in mentoring women, if they practice listening skills with the goal of showing more empathy versus trying to quickly problem solve or fix things for the lady. In the process of listening, male mentors find that they develop and appreciate enhanced interpersonal skills themselves, access to larger networks with these women, and insider knowledge of their organisation. So I think relate more to how best. I don't want to insult anyone. Learn more from the females in regards to women are prone to show their emotion a bit more and don't show away from it. Like if you want to don't run for the exit as soon as you see a teardrop. be confident and have a supply of Kleenex on your desktop for a lady. But women express, their emotions in different ways, but don't shy away from a teardrop. I think, champion the promising women, even though she may shed a tear. But everyone shows emotion in different ways. But I think a lot of guys tend to get frightened off if they have to deal with women too closely, and particularly in emotion wise. I don't know. It's a hard one.
I think that's a good one. What about you, Rochelle? What would you suggest?
For me, my recommendation would be to seek out women for opportunities. So I think women often take the approach of, if I just work hard and keep my head down, eventually someone will tap me on the shoulder for my next step. And some women will take that approach, and to be mindful of that and to reach out to women and have conversations with them about what they're looking for next. I think in meetings, to really encourage women to speak up. If you're chairing a meeting and there's a quiet participant, seek out their views, ask them their view, and get them involved. Look at talent identification. So really identify who are your key talents within your business, and look at a tailored development program for them. And it's not just external, but internally, what opportunities can you offer them? How can you help them grow and develop? That could be as a role of a sponsor or a mentor, as Jody has mentioned as well.
Mm.
The development programs are a good thing. I think, it's if the opportunity's there and they know that's there, that's where they can aspire to, to get involved with, and that can lead to stepping up.
Mm. I just want to touch on there are a couple of questions in here that I just wanted to touch on. One is someone has raised single mums and single mums doing it in the rail industry. And rather than touching on it in detail, I guess I just would want to say is that you are my hero if you are a single mum. I don't know what I would do without my partner. I'd fall in a heap. So if you are a single mum and working and doing what you need to do, you have our full support. And I would just say, if anyone is on this call who is a single mum who'd like a bit of advice with their career, please email me and we'll get you in touch with Rochelle or Jody or anyone else if you've got a specific need to give you a bit of support and mentoring. So that's what I would say about that. We've also started.
Sorry, can I just jump in? I'm now a single, so I have empathy for all the single mums on the call, particularly during COVID, when been remote learning or single mums trying to balance careers plus also do their work. It's been a challenging time, and be gentle with yourself.
Definitely.
Absolutely. And also, sadly, I've seen some sort of sad comments that have been in here about women saying that they don't feel that they've been supported by other women in the workplace. Should we talk about that? Because I've had more male mentors myself because of the sectors I've been in, and I've been very fortunate to not have that experience. But any advice from either of you about if you're finding it challenging dealing with a female leader in your organisation?
We need to celebrate each other's accomplishments, and we need to give each other credit. And women definitely need to get better at supporting other women. It's a great confidence booster to be told that you can do something, even though you're not 100% sure of. And we need to hear that from other women that are doing the role or that are higher up in a leadership role. So it's imperative that you celebrate each other's successes and pass it on. That's just one for me. Shall I go?
Yeah.
The unfortunate part, I think, that sometimes women may have struggled to get to the top themselves and had a difficult time getting there, but then aren't helping other women get to the top as well. And for me, I'm always really mindful about finding development opportunities for women, to really offering as much as I can to help other women as they navigate through their career. Particularly with the Women's Forum that we ran earlier this year, some of the tips and skills that we covered, if I'd known about those 20 years ago, it would have been a much year journey for me. And I take the approach, if I can help some women make it easier in their journey as they navigate through their career, that's a fantastic achievement, and I've made a difference. And I think we all need to remember that it's part of our role to support each other to get to where we want to be.
Mm.
And it is, and that's one of my big mantras is paying it forward pays back. So as you're moving forward in your career, reach behind and pull those up behind you, and always support each other. It's the best way to grow and learn.
Mm. One of the other, there's been a couple of questions here on something interesting, which in light of everything that's been going on with the Black Lives Matter movement, makes me feel a bit uncomfortable that we are three white women here talking on these issues today. I've had a couple of questions from women who are from different cultural backgrounds who are really talking about their experience in rail as not only a woman but someone from a different cultural background and their experience. We could probably make a few more comments now, but I certainly think maybe that's a topic for another one of these sessions that might be a bit more from voices who are more qualified to talk on it than the three of us. But do either of you want to make any comment, or do you think we should defer that for another time?
I'll just make one comment that I think, me personally, diversion and inclusion is like the spice of life. It's everyone brings something different to the table, and everyone's perspective is part of creative, innovative problem solving. So everyone has something of their own to share, and they need to feel confident in doing so. So don't hide from your ethnicity or your background or your race or religion. Your perspective is valued and it needs to be shared. So always share what you believe in and yourself.
Mm.
I would just agree with Jody on that, and I would add that I think most organisations are going through a journey in this space at the moment, and all organisations, I think, would say they're still learning as they go through that journey. One change that we've made at Beeline is having a culture council where we have 6 groups covering generational, gender, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander, LGBTIQI+, culturally diverse, and also disability. And we now have focus groups who focus on initiatives in each of those spaces. And I think that has really raised the awareness within the business in terms of how culturally diverse we are. And if we're going to represent the communities that we serve, then we need to be more diverse. And we've had some days recently, Diwali Day, where we really celebrated that culturally diverse group. It was a fantastic event, and there are lots of events like that I think that organisations can get involved with.
Mm.
And that's right. It's creating a culture where people are respected and appreciated requires another level of effort, and it may not be getting the investment it does require. So yeah, companies and organisations really do need to make a bigger investment in that, and we know that majority of all companies or organisations are definitely working towards that, but if not, they definitely need to start doing so.
And just to finish up on our final question, this one's from Jane, and Jane, you know who you are. I know Jane, and it's a great question. She says, what advice do you have for the people who don't have a 5-year plan? How do you keep goals and targets ambitious but achievable and not too specific? Does having no plan matter? Jane, you will be okay with no plan. I am sure of that. But I mean, what advice would the two of you have, about keeping your goals achievable and not too specific?
I say have a plan, write it down, and look at that plan every day, and tick one box off off a checklist a day. I'm a big journaler and a big note taker. Anyone that works with me or has worked with me knows that. I find, a bit of self-reflection every day, and especially looking at my goals or what I'm achieving, what I want to achieve for the week. As long as I tick one of those boxes a day, I've made an accomplishment. So I say write a plan and write it down and look at it every day.
Rochelle, are you going to be kinder to Jane and say she'll be okay without it?
Well, I have to confess, in my younger years, I had no plan. I, at best, would call it stumbling from one job to the other. I one turn up and I think, oh, that sounds great, and I go on my next career journey. But as I've progressed through my career, I've realised actually having a plan is more important. And for me, it's more about setting out what are the roles that I'm looking for in the future, doing a skills gap to work out what additional skills do I need, whether that's skills or experience, working out what additional skills and experience I would need to get to that role, and then starting to map how I will get there. It doesn't mean that my career will follow that path or that plan step by step, but it makes it then clear to me about where I need to go to next in terms of development of skills or also gaining experience.
Wonderful. We have so many questions we can't even get to them, and I'm so sorry. We started this thinking, oh, how are we going to pad this out for an hour? And I think we could have gone for another hour. I do want to say there's been some fantastic questions in here, and some really, I really appreciate a lot of you who actually, because I'm reading these questions, can see that you've actually been quite vulnerable in sharing your experience. So I do want to say thank you for that. For some of the questions that haven't been answered, we will actually be talking to Rachelle and Jody and try to follow up with answers. So look out for the weekly update, and we'll follow up on some of those we haven't touched on. Also, obviously, we've spoken about some issues that would be worth pursuing for another conversation. I would say if you have any questions or feedback from today, please don't hesitate to email me. At some point this afternoon, the weekly update will go out. I will make sure I have my email address in that. I think these are fantastic questions to just have a bit of a conversation. They don't need to be about this type of thing. We might need to have a conversation about, different particular skills or what have you, but we'd love to hear what you have to say. There will actually be a survey at the end, so I do encourage you to take part in that. In the meantime, thank you so much to Rachelle and Jody for taking part. This has been fantastic.
Thank you.
And we'll get you at a different time, Jody, when you feel you can be a bit more frank and fearless about what you have to say rather than biting your tongue. Hopefully we'll be able to catch up for a drink in the not too distant future. For everyone else, on behalf of the ARA, thank you so much for taking part, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar or Women in Rail Conversations. And please do join the group on LinkedIn. We look forward to speaking to you sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Stay safe and well.